All right. So the first question is, what resources give us the most bang for our buck and have been the biggest game changers? Who wants to start off talking about game changers or excellent resources?
Well, since I've got the camera pointing at me, it's a little weird. I'll just say that for us, Rob and I, we haven't really used, since we had to make our curriculum this year, instead of looking at for some resource individually, we use Blackboard and create our own curriculum, create our own resource. So Blackboard has been the best for us. So we'll create a document or an activity and use various websites to monitor that.
And I would add to that sometimes you can spend a whole lot more time looking for something specific than you could have just made it yourself. And so it is a lot of times easier to find something off a website, paste it into Word, and then maybe turn it into a PDF and put it on Blackboard. And then it's exactly what you want instead of trying to find the right thing and sorting through all these different programs.
J.P. Robinette, your ride is at the back of the school.
So that's kind of been
Robinette, your ride is at the back of the school.
our approach to it. But I know that a lot of other teachers have used a lot of programs and websites and stuff.
And we've had to do that because we didn't have a curriculum this year. Or, I mean, we've got a new curriculum and not necessarily a textbook. So we've got to create it. So that's kind of the approach we went.
Another thing about Blackboard.
Wait, you got to get the camera pointed at you.
On the end. Don't throw it. I won't catch it. That's for sure. Can I do a creepy face? No, I won't. Okay, we're recording. Another good thing about Blackboard, I would say, especially when you have, others in your department where you meet regularly and you share things, it's possible to make each other teachers of your classes on Blackboard. And so Karen and I have done this year where instead of creating and uploading each of us the same quizzes and the same activities, she'll do some, I'll do some, we're on each other's Blackboard classes, and we can copy from one of our classes to the other and share the load. I think that's going to be a big thing this next year, is helping each other share the load, because it's going to be overwhelming enough as it is going, through this really big change. So just knowing that if something comes in your head like, man, I wish I could do this thing so this would be easier, you probably can. Ask one of us or ask Andy, because if it comes across your mind, it's probably come across one of ours, and we can probably tell you, yeah, you can totally do that, save yourself hours, or, no, but, here's some kind words.
I use Google Drive a lot in my classroom, and I know you can also use OneNote or OneDrive, and it does pretty much the same thing. But Google Drive's been really good because it's very intuitive, and it's really easy for my students to share things with me or with each other, and I give them really quick feedback. We use Padlet for things, and then Edpuzzle. I was actually just telling Maria about this. Edpuzzle is a really good website I found. I don't know if anybody else has used that. No? Okay, maybe. You can take different videos, either videos you make or videos from YouTube, or they even have some that are already done, and you can stop them at certain points and insert quizzes, and they can't go on until they answer it, and then it automatically loads things in, and you can see how they did and how much they've watched or how well they did on the quiz, and they can sign in with their Google Drive MJHS Rebels accounts. And so I did it yesterday for the first time, and it was amazing, and the kids really liked it. It was our daily science question, but it would also be good for like a flipped classroom or something like that.
I have a comment to add. Kind of segue with her Google. When you are just setting up initially, when you look for the right search engine for you, for us, we found that Google Chrome was definitely the way to go. It just was much more user-friendly, and it opened the textbook for us, whereas we had some issues when we tried to use a different search engine.
Yeah, Google Chrome has infinitely less glitches than Internet Explorer when you're having them run stuff.
I would say, too, as far as programs or what you're going to decide to use when you get into Blackboard, it may be best to look at it from a practical standpoint of, like, what what do I want to do with technology before you start looking at Blackboard and getting overwhelmed? Like in my class next year, where can I find places to integrate technology in what I'm already doing? And then if you approach it from that aspect, I think it will be less overwhelming than just, okay, we're going to go Blackboard 100%, and then feeling like, after we did the first month, just that overwhelming, wow, we've got so much work to do. So it may be in math or in science, what is it that I can do that I'm already doing that I could maybe do that make it more technology driven? And then, because Blackboard can do just about anything you want it to, but if you approach it from what do I need or what I think I can tackle the first 9 weeks, and then see what Blackboard can do for you in that area, that might be best. And as far as trying to figure out what kind of capabilities it has, and then maybe outside software that you might want to use to go along with it.
Also along those lines, I don't think, I kind of had this feeling in the beginning that I just had to go 100% technology all the way. And then I started to realize, my gosh, these kids are staring at screens all day. They go home and stare at screens, and they're never going to learn to write again. So there's nothing wrong with still using pen and paper and figuring out how much you want to adjust with the technology. So I use Blackboard as a great resource, and we do a lot of stuff on the web and a lot of creative stuff. But at the same time, I have them do a lot of stuff on paper, and I found for me it's just easy for me to look over some things on paper. So, you just got to figure out what will work for you and how don't feel overwhelmed that you just got to go so fast into it.
I've had my classes using the cloud a lot this year. I think, and maybe some of y'all too, even if you're not an early adopter, it's pretty easy to use the cloud, to use OneDrive and then use OneNote. With OneDrive for any of the work that they do for my class, I have them saved to the cloud so that they can work on whatever we've been working on in the class at home, and they don't have to worry about carrying around a junk drive or not being able to access whatever they're working on because they've put it on their home directory here. That's one thing. And then I've been having my kids build digital notebooks this year, and it was one of the things that goes on the nightmare list too. It was really difficult in the beginning because we had communication issues between old accounts and new accounts, and I think we'll have those glitches worked out by the beginning of next year. But
JP Robinette, come to the main office. JP Robinette, come to the main office.
But I have been trying to get my kids to use digital notebooks a little bit more than trying to use paper. And the reason I've been having them, the number one reason I've been trying to get them to use digital notebooks through OneNote, which is a part of that Microsoft package, is because they can take anything that I've done in class, any worksheet, any PowerPoint, any video. They can take that, especially PowerPoints and handouts, they can take that, put it in their OneNote notebook, and they can annotate over the top of it like we do with Active Inspire. Other than the fact that it's not me annotating, it's them taking notes on top of the PowerPoints and the things that I'm handing to them, so that when they go home, instead of having teacher notes, they have their notes. And so hopefully that makes more sense to them when they get home and they're looking through their stuff. So I have found that OneNote and building digital notebooks has been, and I think probably will be, a way a lot of our really techie students next year are going to want to build out their notebooks in classes. It's got lots of good features on it, and once you get in and get going with it, it's really not too hard to use.
Can I add one quick thing on that? In OneDrive, the reason that I love it for my students is because once they have entered their material, it's saved automatically. So they never have the excuse again of, it's lost, it's disappeared.
Yeah, we'll swing it down to this table.
Peter and I were going to add something that we've been doing in social studies quite a bit, is Office Mix, which some of you may not be familiar with, but it's something that came out with last summer. It's a plug-in for PowerPoint, and it's free. And what's awesome about Office Mix is you can take all the old PowerPoints you've had for years, or we all know how to create them. You can create them very simply. But what's great is you can, when you open up PowerPoint and you have your PowerPoint in there, you just have a little tab for Mix. You click on Mix, and then you can record yourself over the top of it. So it opens up several different possibilities with that. For one, you can do flipped classroom stuff, so you can go ahead, in essence, teach, your lesson and have kids, do that at night as homework or things of that nature. If you're going to be out, I've used it a time or two when, I was going to be absent. I went ahead and still did my lesson, recorded everything I wanted to cover, and so all the students had to do was basically, click a link. It makes basically a movie or a web link. But the other cool thing with Office Mix is you can also integrate questions into the process. So you can, teach for a couple slides, and then they'll have, whatever type of question you want to pop up, and you can assess their understanding. And you can track all of that data, so you get all that information back to you. So if you don't have that on your computer, double check. Next time you open up PowerPoint, see if you have a little Mix tab. If you don't, it's a very simple install and takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And once we add it, you can use it for all sorts of things. And so, like I said, we've used it quite a bit. I know Boone's used it quite a bit, Josh and some others.
For my most recent project-based assessment, I recommended that my students house all of their research using a website called Digo. And if you've heard of Digo, Digo is a way to, it's a search engine that creates a toolbar at the top of Google Chrome or Internet Explorer, whatever you're using. And so if you're on a page doing research for a research paper or a project, you can favorite the web page that you're on, and then it will store it in folders that you create, so we don't have all of these various sources getting lost or getting mixed up. And the great thing is, once you've saved it in your archive, you can go over with the tools in Digo on the web page. You can annotate, you can highlight, you can put sticky notes right there, and so you get to a certain point, and then you say, okay, put in a sticky note, pick up here. Okay, and so those annotations, those sticky notes, they stay as long as you put it in your favorites list, and it's a really good way for them to keep everything in one place. So they do finding all of their resources, put it in Digo, and then they go back at home, they pull up their Digo account, and then they've got all it nice, neat, organized, a way to sort of trace back, what they were doing in class. Because I find so many of my students, they're not organized enough paper-wise that they can keep all of their papers and books and websites straight.
Is that
Diigo. And there's some really good both teacher-made and company-made, although those are a little bit propaganda. But the teacher-made reviews out there can really tell you in 4 or 5 minutes the ways that you can use Digo in the classroom. And what's more is that it's also a social, it's not a social network per se, but you can share your resources with friends. Now, some of you might be concerned that one person's doing all the research, but okay, if somebody's going to the trouble to use Digo, odds are they're probably not the person who's just not going to do anything, and they're going to get their resources from the person next to them. So there's a great bit of sharing that can go on there. Oh, I found this great resource. You're researching the same topic or a similar topic. Let's do a little bit of sharing here. And so it promotes sort of cooperation in the research process.
And I want to ditto what Scotty said. Don't try to do it all at one time because it's completely overwhelming. But one of the aspects of Blackboard that the English department uses is when you're in the community and you're under your organizations. If I click on the English department, we've got both 8th and 9th grade. So anything that I want to put on Blackboard, if I put it in the 8th grade community folder, then they can simply copy it. So it's that community sense and being able to really work as a team, so you're not doing it all by yourself, because it's really overwhelming if you try. But we do that pretty much, on a daily basis. So.
Your department's community page is like the share drive, the way that we share stuff, the way we, will pass stuff back and forth. It's essentially the same thing. It's just through Blackboard. So that's, yeah.
But I can put it automatically into
Mhm.
mine, and
Yeah.
students have access to it.
Our next question, this is always a fun one. What are the most common ways that computers can get screwed up? What troubleshooting techniques are invaluable? What things frequently go wrong? It's a lot of.
I believe about it. I just want to say Citrix. Sorry, you don't have to worry about that.
Go with Chrome.
Yeah.
Make that your default browser. That's a big one.
Yeah. And I would say, write this down, function print screen. Okay? That's how you turn on and off the Wi-Fi on the laptops. And so you're holding the function key, and then you see the little
You
Wi-Fi
got a little
signal.
light back here that shows it's on Wi-Fi.
And about 1/4 of the students know that, and so before they leave, they turn it off so the next person is confused.
Yeah. Which you don't have to worry about because they'll all have their own laptop. But they often will like disconnect from the network. Oh, I don't have any internet anymore. And for whatever reason that it's messed up, if you just turn it off and then turn it back on, it's like rebooting the Wi-Fi.
In 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And you have to be on the right network too. You have to be
And
on.
then yours, please.
But it'll pick up the right network if you do that.
Try a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it tries to go to MCS public instead of the WLAN.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I'm kind of torn on because sometimes the kids will they'll want to troubleshoot. It's awesome, and they'll play around put it on MCS Public, MCS Guest when their Wi-Fi doesn't work, but that just messes a bunch of stuff up. And so doing that function print screen and resetting the Wi-Fi, it'll go back to MCS LAN, and it solves those problems 99% of the time. Other horror stories?
The no logon servers. I don't know the best way to fix this. I'd plug mine in to my wall. Is that the best
And
way
the
to do
function
it?
print screen helps with that a lot too.
Are you
Okay.
talking about when they try to log on and it says not enough servers?
Yes. Or
You restart your computer.
Yeah. So two big things that go on with that: the no logon servers and not enough system resources. For not enough system resources, if you just hold the power button down until all the lights go off and then turn it back on, then it works fine. What it is from so many kids using the machine and being logged on and having their profile on, it just needs that cleared out.
If you're not sure what we're talking about right now, sometimes I forget that not everybody has the same. When we talk to whatever. If your student has trouble logging on to their computer, they open it up, they turn it on, or it comes to the log on screen, and some sort of error. Oh, I can't get on my computer. It won't let me log on. That's what we're talking about for whatever message.
It shouldn't be as frequent, but it'll probably come up at some point.
Ninth grade teachers won't have to wear loose straight.
Yeah.
The thing is, at the beginning of the year, yes, some days you'll spend 10 minutes getting everybody on. But as the year goes on, you get more used to troubleshooting. Everybody's on in a minute or 2 minutes, and class is flowing very easily. They know exactly where to go. Yeah. So there's an uphill climb at first, but it gets easier to manage very quickly. The more you discuss with your department what's the best way to do this, how do you go about starting class and transitioning. Okay, once you figure those bugs out, class flows very smoothly and problems get fixed, mostly by the students. There are some who will always not know what to do just because they're not tech savvy, but they're easy to help out, and you know to anticipate their lack of knowledge of their problem. So
it's good too to identify a couple of high flyers at the beginning of the year who you can go to. Like, hey, like when you're covered up, you're like, oh, can you go help with that? And they really like it, and they feel all tech supporty, and it's a great resource.
Another one, if you're going to link a textbook, have the kids set up to turn off the pop-up blockers. That took us weeks to figure out. One day they could get in and one day they couldn't. So Google Chrome, no pop-up blockers, and then depending on your textbook, it's not an issue anymore.
So in August, just know that you're going to be a tech teacher for the first couple of weeks.
You will.
And that's, I'm not kidding. You will be feeling like at some days that you didn't accomplish your objectives or your standards for the day because you spent more time on technology. And that's just, I think that's going to be the way it is for at least this first year when they've all got computers. Next year it won't be so bad because they'll have had them for a year. keep a notepad next to your computer when you get those questions that you don't know how to answer, and you can just bring them to one of us, because more than likely, like somebody said, we'll probably have already gone through that. But in the heat of the moment, there's just going to be stressful days because you're going to have all these questions about things you don't know the answers to, and you just got to know that it's coming and be patient.
Do you publish your notepad?
I don't think I think most of those are in file 13. I don't like clutter, so once I figure it out, I throw it away.
You know, one thing I figured out just here this past week is we got this little laser pointer that's it's also a presentation thing you can flick through PowerPoints and Active Inspires. It works for all that. But sometimes when I'm, like today, I was trying to get them on this website and they had to download something. And some kids were just having problems. So I just sat at like the back of the classroom where I could see 2 or 3 rows from where I was. And I could literally point exactly where they need to put their mouse from the back. You know, you need to go here, click this. And it was like, whoa, I've not done this before. It was like amazing. So
how much? That was inexpensive.
Yeah, it was like $15 or something.
Yeah, and this with Active Inspire and PowerPoint, you can click through your thing. So unless you're working a problem in math, you can walk around while you're doing your notes or whatever, which you will need to do because they are fully convinced they can play games and pay attention at the same time. So you have to kind of be in a lot more motion than maybe you were before they had laptops in front of them.
This one is
on Amazon.
SANOXY. Sanoxy, I guess. PowerPoint laser presentation.
So the next couple questions kind of go together, and they still fit with that last one. We've got a theme going here. So we've got, what are your main trials and tribulations, and how did you work through those? We've kind of been touching on those. And also, what are the biggest lessons learned? I think that kind of fits in, but does anyone have anything on any of those topics before we...
Well, one thing I would say that's kind of already been said is use your kids to help you get through those tough days, because a lot of those kids can figure things out or a step ahead of you. And like you said, the high flyers, you can show them how to do it one time, and it's just, you take those 2 tables and I'll take this 2. They can help you out a lot and make your life a lot less stressful.
And anticipate the problems. Like I have honors classes on A days, so they kind of mislead how well smooth things are going to go, because the next day I may have my CP classes and they'll struggle. So I'll put step-by-step detailed directions on the projection, with pictures and everything, so they'll know exactly what to click on, exactly what to go to, because some of them are obviously more computer literate than I am, but then you got the others that have really not touched much on a computer, so you got to prepare for that.
And you can't really judge based on their academic level how good they're going to be with technology. You can have some kids in your lower classes that are high flyers, and so you can't judge based on necessarily all the time. My honors class is going to knock it out of the park today. It doesn't always work out that way.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that many things that you try this first year and the next year are going to fail. And we are always telling our kids that they have to not be afraid of failure. Okay, you guys have to be not afraid of failure, because the first time we gave a test, we didn't know how to set up the parameters and what worked best. And we had so many kids saying, my internet's off and now I can't get back in. So we had to go back and individually reset every one of our 180 students so that they could retake the test. And we learned over time that those things, you're going to fail. Lessons will flop because you didn't do enough work on the front, or their instructions were clear to you but not clear to somebody else, or something that was essential won't link because for you it's, the path is clear, but iPrism is blocking it for the students. Just anticipate lessons not going as you want them to go, because if you get bent out of shape by every little thing in Blackboard, you won't use it ever again. So, once you're used to it enough, it's amazing. But
I just want to add on to Boone just really quick. With that in mind, the flip side is we failed for you.
Yeah.
So, don't stress and don't try to do it all by yourself, because you're going to go down paths we've already been down. So definitely, I think every department for the most part is represented core, and, come talk to us and ask us before you're thinking we can help you. So, it's stressful and it's scary, but at the same time, don't be scared, because we're kind of working these kinks for you. So, we've already been there, so don't stress too much.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to add is when you were talking about writing instructions, especially for the kids, and sometimes it was my first period, I call them my guinea pigs, because bless their hearts, they're the ones who had to go through it first. And then by the second and third period, I would add some more directions. And one thing that the English department, at least upstairs, what we were using is the snipping tool. I never knew it was there, and I would take a picture of this is what your screen would look like, and then I'd throw it up there on the Promethean. And then once the visual came up there, most of us are visual learners, and most of the time if I put a picture up there, it didn't take long for them to figure it out. And I didn't know the snipping tool even existed until this year. So it's been very helpful.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. The snipping tool looks like a pair of scissors, and then it has a little white circle. You need to just add that to your taskbar at the bottom, because you'll use it all the time. It is so much easier. As soon as you click it, you just highlight whatever is on the computer that you want to take a picture of, and then you can just copy and paste it. And it is so much easier to just take a picture of, click on this part of the website, versus trying to go everybody, because otherwise you'll be going to every computer. It's right there, it's right there, it's right there. But if you can take a picture of it, it is very, very easy. And then also you find a website that you like, it's got a little good summary or something. You could just take a picture of it, and then you put the picture in Blackboard as an item, and then they don't even have to go to the website to, if you're like, go here and read this paragraph. It's just a whole lot easier to take a picture of it and then make essentially something in Blackboard.
And especially when you're developing your own curriculum like we are, we're scared somewhat that if we make this great assignment and then that website disappears, you're like, oh my gosh. But if we take a picture of that from the website and put it in Blackboard, they'll have that snippet forever. So.
And with snipping tool too, there's also annotation features in it, so you can draw on it or you can highlight. But also, when things go wrong and you're trying to tell me what's going on, you can take a snip of the error message or what the page looks like or what's going on, and that helps me to be able to troubleshoot a lot faster, besides just saying, my computer's not working. So like a snip of what's going wrong, what it's looking like for you that's not right. So that's also a tool that can help out just with trying to get some problem solved faster.
The way that I've been using snipping tool lately, and once you get used to using the same tools and the same programs, it's just going to be like logging into your email, second nature. I use a program called ClassFlow, okay? If you've ever looked into ClassFlow and gotten super overwhelmed, you're not going to the right place, you went where I went to first, and I went, no, can't. There is a way to get ClassFlow on your Active Inspire, okay? If you're not following me, email me later. There is a way to take what's on your active screen and push it out to the kids' computers. If they go to a certain website, and if they're logged into ClassFlow the way that they ought to, conversation for another day, there is a way for you, whenever you have Active Inspire pulled up, to push out what's on your screen to their screens. So they can, first of all, that's just cool, okay? Second of all, if they take a screenshot of what you've sent out to them, maybe you're working a math problem or, conjugating a verb, taking some notes, whatever, you push that out to them, they, have on their screen what you just sent out, so they're not going to mistype or miswrite any of their notes, and then they can, from the snipping tool, they can annotate further what you sent to them. They can save it somewhere, they can copy and paste it to a Word document. It's endless. It's actually up here.
Can I talk about ClassFlow? I have been working and trying to make ClassFlow work, I feel like the whole year. There are some pros and cons to it I don't know the technical term, but if you use it off of your software on your computer, Sometimes kids get in, sometimes kids don't get in, sometimes they get kicked out. But it is really cool, like people that have to sit in the front, they really don't have to sit in the front anymore because you can push out the card or your screen to their screen, and it's right in front of them. You can also flip the page, and students that are ahead can go ahead and be writing the problem, and you don't have to send it out yet because students are still working or writing down the problem from the previous. So you can kind of monitor your class pace a little bit that way. But there's also things in ClassFlow to assess as you go through your lessons. Mm-hmm. So there's like a confidence rating, like, hey, you guys try this on your own. Were you able to do it totally on your own, or did you have to ask? Like, tell me are you highly confident, or are you highly unsure? And so you can kind of get a pulse of your classroom that way. And there's lots of different ways that you can just kind of assess, which is a ton of conversations for another day. But
we could talk
ClassFlow is my favorite. There's still some things that are being worked out, but it's one of my favorites.
And at this point, we're going to switch gears into looking at a few classes in Blackboard, how teachers have organized their material. So do we have any, Rob, are you going to go, or Scotty? You can, right over here. Plug in there.
Well, yeah, another thing, your department might look into buying some like HDMI cables. If you have that, your projector is newer, you should be able to plug all of their laptops in, which is a really cool way, you know, if they're working on something that you can just say, hey, you put yours up on the screen, which they kind of like that too, you know, if they're making something, or you can have them present. But we just kind of thought the ways that maybe showing you, because if you're kind of already using Blackboard and you sort of already figured that out, then you're fine. But if you're right now just using Blackboard for like the assignment calendar and kind of your contact page, which is sort of was our requirements for this year, then this is, I figured it, you know, just kind of showing here's how we're using it. Basically, the way I see it is, I'm trying to make as many resources accessible to them, and I'm trying to make it organized so that they can figure it out. And so my class is, Scotty's real similar because we share a lot of stuff. So I kind of have like a folder, and this is all in class content. You know, I have, here's my syllabus, here's some things that are helps, essentially, you know, so you've got all your stuff, here's your supply list, or here's all the things unique to your class. That'll be really nice at open house next year, because it's kind of all your questions that you get asked. And then what I do is I use the assignment calendar to show, you know, every lesson has a name, and which we see our students every other day, so it's kind of doubled up. So for us, that's 90 things. For you guys, that's 180. So you might consider something maybe a little simpler. But each lesson has a name, and then you go into that folder. So if you're, you know, at the beginning of the year, you're in Unit 1, here's all their lessons. And so every day, everything they're going to use that day is in that folder. And so this really is actually pretty easy, because you're not changing the way you're teaching. You're not creating all these new resources. It could be as simple as, you know, so I open up this lesson. Well, here's the flip chart that I'm going through that they can open up and modify. Or if they're sitting in the back and they can't see, they can open up the flip chart. Here's what they're going to follow along with, and that sort of thing. But basically, my sort of philosophy for year 1, and what me and Scotty were trying to do was, let's try to organize our curriculum and get it sort of digitized, which for you all, you might already be there. It might be scanning some stuff to PDF, but where you're almost organizing your content and making it available to them. And that's what they're doing in class. They're pulling up all the stuff. And this has been awesome for students being absent, because they do this every single day. So they know, here's where all the stuff is. Okay, I was absent that day, so I'm going to look and see what it was that I missed. Now, something
Rob,
that...
If I could say something real quick.
Yeah.
And something else I've just started doing that's really helped me out. You know, you'll write stuff on the board. Okay, we're doing Unit 1, Transcendentalism or whatever. But they're like, what unit are we supposed to be in? What folder, whatever. Well, I'll make everything black except the one we're doing that day. You know, when we go to that day's lesson, I'll change it to red. So I'll go, open up red, and I don't have to say anything else. And they look for the red folder, the red assignment, the red notes. And so that's been convenient for me. I'm just trying to.
So that's why all your stuff is red.
It's a lot of colorful stuff.
I always have to change it when I get it. Okay. Now, a little more advanced, kind of because this is the extent we've created learning modules, which is something that's really pretty cool. It's kind of like where you are creating a lesson. And so what we've done is create a lesson where, you know, you're going through, okay, answer these questions. That's a really long standard. And then right here, you know, you're gonna read that, answer that. You know, you kind of can put a lot of stuff together in a way that they click through, and then, you know, you can add a video clip, and, you know, those kinds of things. So learning module is kind of like, I guess, your next step as far as what we've done this year. Because we've kind of looked at it as trying to get everything digital, everything organized, and using Blackboard for like reviews, kind of creating some stuff like that we can share, and using it for tests. And then kind of the next tier above that is what Josh and Boone are doing in ninth grade. So if one of you all wants to.
And so instead of, you know, saying open your textbook to chapter 4 or unit 5, chapter 4, section 3, we do that within Blackboard. All of the content is organized in folders, in units. The tests are there.
Okay, so Josh and I have been working together a lot and getting Scotty and Rob and Chris's input as well about the best way to lay out our pages. And so we found for us that, you know, you start at your landing page and you've got your announcements up there, and then you'll go into class content, and that's where you house most of your important lessons and documents. And so what we found is that students sometimes, if you embed projects or benchmarks or exams or retake assignments within the units, that they sort of get lost and they can't find them. So we've sort of created folders for each of those things, and so I'll show you what our unit quizzes. Okay, so, and a lot of color coding helps students to find the right things. So, you know, I've done unit exams in blue and retakes in red, so they can find all of those there, past exams. And guys, once they've taken the exams and there's sort of debriefing and retakes, you can password protect your exams. And let's say the week before your final or midterm, you want to take all those passwords off and just let the kids retake these exams over and over again. That's a great way for them to review the things that they've learned and be reminded of the tests that they've taken in the past. And of course, they're not graded, but it allows them to sort of get some reacquaintance with that information.
So do you plan on reusing those tests next year?
Well, the great thing about Blackboard is you can import pools of test questions. So these might be 30 questions long, but we've got a pool of 50 questions that it randomly pulls from. So yeah, we'll use the same pools, but they'll be completely different tests because they're randomized. The number choice, the answer choices are randomized, and the choices that the computer pulls, the standards that you have up there, it can randomize all those things. So the likelihood that somebody's going to get the exact same test if you set up your test the right way is very, very low. So, having students,
could choose to just password protect it.
Yeah, password protect it all the time, and they'll never. And you can make it so they only see the results one time. So it's pretty simple.
It gives you a lot of options.
Yeah, it gives you tons of options. Just to go in to show you what some of our lessons look like. And so when you build a lesson, you can put your unit standards on the opening page. Okay, and then when you go into, so this is the unit we're working on right now. Well, actually, this is the unit we're working on right now, imperialism. So we've got all of our standards right there. Okay, so the kids can get on there and they can look at the standards, and you can make it so you can see it, or they can see it and you can see it. Okay, so we've got ours laid out by lesson, and sometimes we can finish a lesson in an entire class, and sometimes we can't. But we lay it out so it's very clear. so it's a step-by-step process and it's scaffolding. So steps 1 and 2 usually are information building, fact building. And once you get into step 3, 4, 5, and 6, if the lesson is that long, that's where Josh and I implement the higher order thinking skills so that the kids who get it and move through the lesson quickly can advance to those, the higher order questions and the more analysis. But the kids who are sort of stuck and can't get the basics, they can sort of go back and repeat steps 1 and 2 and 3 until they've mastered those skills. So this allows you to basically explain what you're doing for the day, give some background knowledge, and then set your kids loose on whatever question you've given them or whatever skill you've given them, and they can move through the steps at their own pace. And there are videos, so...
What is that called? Do you know how to build a... Dalton Fritz, please come to the office.
Yeah, so...
Fritz, please come to the office.
What do you mean? What are these folders called?
The very beginning, when you're going to add it, it's a learning module, is that what you said? You know
You can either do a lesson plan or a learning module. Okay, we've set ours up so these are lesson plans. So you go down here, and each of these. So this whole thing is a learning module. This would be a lesson plan,
Okay.
and then the things that you build your content out of, they're either items or files or audio or image or YouTube videos.
And within the item, you can add pretty much anything you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so start with a learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
then add items in.
another thing that Blackboard allows you to do, let me go back to a previous lesson or a previous unit. Okay, and it takes a lot of the excuses away from your students because you're providing all this material for them. We provided students with a test study guide. Okay, and what's more, Mr. Dunkel basically took the study guide and turned it into a YouTube video where he was reading the study guide and narrating it with videos, maps, images, and you can put that right there in Blackboard. And so the kids who are not going to sit down and read something can actually just listen to it once, twice, 3 times over. And so you're addressing all of your different styles of learners. And so the way that you organize your page is going to sort of dictate the way that you teach. And there's not one correct way, but we're just showing you the way that we want to teach. This is the way that we organize our page. And so you can sort of get templates for project-based learning. You can get templates for flipped classrooms. And so there's limitless possibilities for you, but this is what we've discovered works for our classroom.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the end themes at the end is there's so many different options. Just try to figure out, like I think Josh said earlier, figure out what you want to do, and then we can help you find ways to do it or try to troubleshoot with that solve. We're ready to right into our time. As always, if you have any questions or concerns or anything, you can send them to us. Part of the agreement of being early adopters is that we get to be those lab rats that figure out all the things that go wrong, so we can help share that.
Can you guys say one last thing?